for 8 hours. Still hasn't gone live on YouTube for some reason. Oh, there we
It's
go.
got like a 13-second delay or something.
There we go. All right, closing that so I don't get confused, because that's easy to do. Boy, look at these live chats rolling in. Ready?
Ready.
The year was 1998. Texas Instruments released a device that changed my world. That device was a TI-89. This is episode 89. Coincidence? I think not.
Probably.
Probably. Yeah.
What is the TI-89?
The graphing calculator that you could actually program. Like, I used to write programs like Space Invaders on my phone, and you could share the programs between calculators. Man, it was amazing. I was reading the wiki page before we started, and the TI-89 is allowed in a lot of tests that are calculator permitted, including the SAT, but it's banned in others like the ACT. Meanwhile, the TI-92 that has very comparable features to the 89, because it has a QWERTY keyboard, is considered a computer and not a calculator. Therefore, it is banned from those same tests. But yeah, I loved that thing when I was in high school.
Yeah, I never really got into the
Holy
calculator
crap.
games and stuff.
I was in high school over 20 years ago. This just turned to a very depressing episode all of a sudden.
You have children. You should be like
But I could have had
now.
children 20 years ago. That's not the point.
True.
You're completely missing it. Oh, wow. So this is our post Christmas pre New Year's edition. This will probably not come out until after the New Year's.
Yeah,
So
what did you get? What did you get for Christmas?
That was a loaded question. Depends who you're asking from.
In general, you get anything cool for Christmas? Any toys?
No, I buy all my own toys. I'm a grown man. I don't need people to buy me anything.
No, I mean I get permission to buy myself something for Christmas. That's how it works.
You need to renegotiate your contract there.
Oh shit. Yeah, I meant I got a surround sound stereo system for like $48 total.
Holy crap! Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of thrift stores around here, and if you do your shopping smart, you can piecemeal it together, and yeah, it worked out pretty nice.
See, that's my problem is I don't shop smart. I buy what I want when I want, and that's normally not a good thing. So my purchase of the season was a new TV for the living room. So I went from a 36 to a 49-inch TV with a soundbar. But they were wall mountable. So it's the first time we've had a TV mounted to the wall, getting it off of our console. So
nice.
that was our big purchase this year. Except for the fact that my soundbar is about 2 to 3 inches too low. So I need to raise that up to get rid of that friggin' space that's driving me nuts right now. But having kids makes it so hard to get in there and actually do any work. Even though it's 4 screws. Like, take them out, throw in some new screws, and you're good to go.
Yeah, it just requires motivation, which is a killer.
Yeah, often is the case. So we went to the in-laws for Christmas. We did Christmas morning here with the kids. Amazing. Watching the two boys interact is so much fun. We get to the in-laws. Holy friggin' overwhelming.
Really?
Oh my God, it's so overwhelming.
Like Christmas overload or people or
People and gifts. So have you ever read the 5 love languages book?
No, I've never even heard of
Awesome,
that.
awesome read. Most everybody has like their primary love language. And for my mother-in-law, that love language is gifts. So
Ah, gotcha.
so Christmas time when you're young is friggin' amazing. You walk out to the tree and there's just mounds of gifts under the tree. Being a parent of a kid, nowadays I want experiences. My wife and I are about let's give people experiences, whether it's theme parks or museum memberships, something that you will go and enjoy time doing something versus a toy that a kid will love for a day, maybe a week if you're lucky, and then they forget about it.
Yeah.
You go to you we went there and it was like it's just nonstop. It's they open a gift and it's like, what's next? What's next? Open another one. What's next? And it's like they're just tearing through paper at that point. They're not appreciating like what they're receiving. You just want to
Yeah,
like
my son
stop, stop.
my son got a lot of money this year, which is always really unpleasant on Christmas because every store is closed.
Hmm.
So you've just gotten a gift that you can't get until the day after Christmas, which got very frustrating to him. He wanted to find every store and that was open and go there. And
I thought you were teaching them all about cryptocurrency. So you're supposed to be taking that money and investing it in cryptocurrency.
well, one of the big things was we decided one of the gifts was going to be allowing them to have computers in their rooms. Um,
Wow, that's a big step.
yeah, but they're at that age now where they need to be getting acclimated to using a computer instead of a phone or a tablet. Uh, and the computer that he had died 2 days before Christmas
Hmm.
in in a way that only a an HP can die, which is just that it shows the HP logo on the screen and does nothing else, and there's no diagnostics and nothing you can do about it. So I gave it a good 3 hours trying to fix it, and eventually gave up, deciding that something arbitrary had failed, and who knows what, and it's irreparable. So he ended up spending some of his money on a replacement computer. And these days you can hop on Newegg and find hundreds of computers for 80 bucks. Different refurbs of things. So we picked one out for him and said, "Here's the one that you want to spend your money on," and that's what he got. So now that's in the mail, but it's not going to be here till the second.
I
Which, again, patience is not his strong suit.
don't think it's any kid's strong suit.
Yeah, well, it's
It's not my strong suit. I mean, that's
he's
why everyone has
14.
Amazon Prime.
That's true. Paying $120 for improved shipping
It's the
for
only reason I moved to
July.
San Diego. I can get Prime almost same day for most things I want. Okay, it's not
Yeah,
why I moved to
so
San Diego, but it's a good reason.
he's got his desk. So the thing about making it a present that we allow them to have computers in their room is that all three of them got computer desks, and we're going to get them a setup that allows them to compute on something other than their bed or the floor.
Interesting. So,
And
do they all have their own rooms, or any of them sharing a room?
no, they all have their own rooms. That's one of the reasons we moved out here to Colorado, was to afford something where we could have everyone in their own room. Because they sure don't get along. They they
Hmm.
really hate each other.
So prior to this, the twins shared a room.
No, prior to this, the boys shared a room. So the
Hmm.
twins are boy girl,
Hmm.
and at about 10 years old, they split off, and the boys ended up sharing a room, and the girl got her own room. And
That does make sense.
yeah, it was one of those practicality issues with girls wanting their privacy and boys being disgusting slobs. And
That, that's something my wife and I talk about. Is right now the boys have separate rooms, and we kind of want them to share a room. We think it'll be a great experience for them. But
yeah,
right now, Nolan is too young. Well, I can't say that. If we only had a two-bedroom place, they'd be sharing a room, right? We'd have no other
yeah.
options.
If you had a studio, you'd all be sharing a room. But
Yeah, that's true. So we keep talking about that. Maybe once Nolan is out of a crib and we're not worried about his sleep, just forcing him like, here's bunk beds, go have fun.
yeah, I'd say it's positive for them to share a room all the way up until when it's not, and then you need to be able to pivot very quickly and make sure that they have separate rooms.
Yeah, luckily we have that option, but we think we'll get there probably within the next year. Like,
the the nice thing
have,
is you get to align the bedtimes, and so
mhm.
some of that age gap jealousy gets taken care of very easily. When they're in separate rooms, the older brother, he puts himself to bed whenever he decides he wants to, and the younger one, we tell him now is bedtime, go hop in bed. And when he realizes his brother's going to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning and he's going to bed at 10, he gets a little upset, but then he's a sort of special
Those
case.
bedtimes are out of whack.
Yeah,
Just saying.
you when you have 3 kids, you kind of get trampled by them. It's, I mean, we were talking a couple episodes ago about when to let the kids on the internet and social media stuff, and we had some comments on Twitter from Paul M. Jones, friend of the show, Paul M.
Mhm.
Jones, and I mean the sort of consensus I got was yes, every choice you make is going to be terrible, but you have to just let go at a certain point because they're teenagers and that's what you have to do.
See, if I knew you were gonna bring Paul up, I would have gone and made an old fashioned and been drinking that right now.
Yeah. Well, I
I,
mean,
I I do believe that's his drink of choice.
whenever someone mentions us on Twitter, I do have to bring it up on the show.
Because it happens so rarely.
Yeah, it's
So
it's once a month or something.
so you had a great idea that since this was the last show of the year, even though it's not going to come out until next year, we would do a year in review. So 2017. And I thought about opening the show and saying something negative about the administration that we're in and closing the show within 2 minutes and being done.
Yeah, but he ended up doing that on his own today.
Let's not go there. I saw your post,
Pretty amazing
which
stuff.
which actually led me to another new discovery. You posted. I'm assuming you're talking about his insane tweets about global warming, right?
Right. Not only that global warming isn't real, but that it's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so I clicked on that, which I know Patreon as a way to support YouTubers I watch or content creators that I follow, which
Sure.
basically means YouTube. And the first reply I see is an adult film star. And I guess that's the new Patreon people. Like,
Oh
support me on
yeah.
Patreon. So you go to Patreon and now you get access to their adult content. But my assumption is it's not really that person doing the posting. I'm assuming it's a bot that's just replying to crap to get
Probably.
get people that follow that same person to their Patreon page to support them.
Um, no, I think they're bots that are bought by the person running the Patreon. I think they're authentic.
I'm not saying they're not authentic, but I'm assuming that it's mostly bots that are probably just replying just to get people to see that account and saying, "Oh,
Right.
what's
Right.
this?" and then go
They are just
follow back.
spam. Yeah.
Yeah, just funny to me. Learn something new based
Yeah,
on your
I don't
post.
think Patreon intended for their platform to become an adult entertainment platform, but it is now. And I've had to worry about that for Buscoin as well. Like,
At the end of the day, I don't think they care, and I don't think you care.
I kind of do. I want to
Why?
target because I want to target content creators, not
Content
clip
creators.
creators, not clip creators. I think that I want to promote something different. I want to promote creativity, not
Mm,
just outright pornography.
gotcha. That makes sense.
And there are, if this is too deep a cut, tell me, there are some porn star, cam girl people who are very creative and are doing something new with the platform. They're not just doing straight up
But
porn. They're
yeah, but what I think you're talking about goes back to back in early 2000s. I worked for basically a prescription drug company.
right.
Well, prescription drug pushers. They weren't really the drug company themselves. Anyway, they were selling Viagra and other medications online, and they had hired somebody that was a what you're calling a clip creator. They or actually he was more of a clip stealer. He'd go and find content on the web and basically call it his own, trying to drive traffic to that, which created affiliate sales.
Yeah, yeah,
So he's not really a content creator, which is what Patreon and Buscoin and others like that are trying to do. They're trying to
right.
promote creativity, not spam.
Yeah. So, like you were saying, year in review, tangent there.
Yep. Well, it's always a tangent when you start talking about adult stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, the first point we were going to talk about was SDPHP and SD Laravel, and while it was a successful year for both, I still enjoy organizing the groups, and I think Eric does too. It is a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a ton of work. So we decided to merge the two, and because Laravel's gone, it's pretty mainstream. It's not there's not something new um, every week, every month. We decided that it doesn't need its own spin-off group anymore. Decided to kind of shut that group down, have just the SDPHP, and decided that we're going to basically move that to Mid County in San Diego. Hopefully, we'll get people from downtown and people from North County that can meet us in the middle and continue to grow this group. That's the plan.
Yeah, the last year for SD Laravel, but SDPHP carries on the tradition.
Speaking of SDPHP, have you hooked up with a PHP user group out there?
I have. I'm actually presenting January 10th here. Pikes Peak
Nice.
PHP or Peak PHP.
Nice. And is
So
this going to be is this the first meetup?
this will be the second meetup. We did the first meetup which was about Composer. So I'll be
Oh,
doing
so you
object-oriented
actually went with a
PHP.
presentation for the very first meetup?
I was there. I was there for the first one, and I'm presenting at the second one.
I guess I meant they decided to go that route. The big piece of advice I got before starting SDPHP was for your first meetup, at least for the first, if not for additional ones, don't have a presentation. Have just a place for people to get together, kind of socialize, talk about where you want the meetup to go, type of get together. And then
Yeah,
depending on how many people showed up, if you only have a couple of people show up, you're not going to do a presentation the second time. You'll just keep doing that, having conversations until the meetup grows organically enough to have presentation style meetups.
yeah, that makes sense, and I think that's one of the things that we discussed doing. I know the guy running it this is his first time running a meetup, so give him a
How
lot
big
of
was
advice.
the composer meetup?
5 people,
Okay.
so not much, but
Yeah,
hoping to
just
build it.
don't let them get burnt out on the fact that there's only 5 people, and don't. Well, I don't want to say don't continue doing presentations, but I would encourage them to just keep socializing, make it more of getting together, and then do presentations when you have enough people to present to.
Yeah. Well, and you know how I present. I'm a very communicative presenter. I interact with the audience a lot, so
You're also
hopefully,
a communicative presentation watcher.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I tend to guide things the
Speak
way I think they should go.
in
Your
a good way,
presentation's
in a
going. What's the
constructive
topic?
way. What?
Yeah, I always try to be constructive, and I know you know when we do these meetups, presenters are often speaking in public for the first time, and there are some simple things like just getting off topic or losing track where a having a person guide it back in the correct direction can be very helpful, and
Or just
I've tried to do
or
that.
just providing different perspective. I mean, when I did my security talk, some of the things you brought up were just they were awesome. It was good fodder and added to my presentation.
Yeah,
So it wasn't. I didn't take it critically. I took it as you just contributing to my talk,
yeah, and
which is the way it should be.
I try to ask questions that I know the answer to, but I know that 3 other people in the room don't know the answer to,
Hmm.
so that it it's still the focus is still on the presenter, not on
Yeah,
me.
I do that too, and try to do a good job of preparing presenters for that case because we've had a couple of instances where we've done that and the presenter didn't like it or thought we were trying to
Yeah,
make them look bad. So
which I think some of the internet remembers happening.
yeah, we'll move on from that.
So you were saying Laravel's really become mainstream,
Mm,
and I've been thinking about Laravel's position in the market right now, and it's so mainstream, but it's also come to such a slowed down pace
mm.
this year. It
I,
really,
I I think it's become not so the wow factor isn't there. Not that it's bad; it's still a great framework, but a couple years ago it was so wow. People wanted to know more. They wanted to know what was going on. Now it's
yeah,
just
and
like,
every release had some new feature that was just mind blowing to so many of the people in the community. You know,
mm,
concepts that were long applied to Java that are now getting applied to PHP, and it's Laravel's the first framework to integrate it, and boom, you've got this brand new feature that everyone wants to try out. Um, but I really think that this year is the year that Laravel cemented itself as the PHP framework right now. It's easily the most popular framework for PHP on GitHub. It's got huge followings. It's sold out at Laracon every year and Laracon EU every year and Laracon Brazil.
did you just call him a sellout?
No, no, I would never. And you know, we talk about we give our opinions on Laravel in this podcast a lot because Laravel is the talking point in the PHP community right now. Everything that was done right or done wrong, harsh criticism and heaping praise. It seems very polarizing, but it is by and far the most popular framework for anything new in PHP. Uh, I'm curious to see where Taylor takes Laravel next year, and
Mhm.
I think all 3 of us have been pushing for this concept of enterprise to be more correctly defined for Laravel.
Yeah, I agree with that, and the whole idea of long-term support and having having a good support channel available to people is crucial.
Yeah, so I'm interested in seeing how Laravel is taken in that direction, or if something takes over. It could very easily be that Cake PHP just takes the reins and starts moving forward and taking over.
It's possible. I saw actually had a good conversation recently with one of our contractors, Frank, around Symphony 4.0 that was just released this year. And he's said he's been playing with it, and I guess out of the box, it's bare bones. There's really nothing there to it.
It's
You're
yeah, it's a
basically
real skeleton.
you're basically pulling in pieces and parts. And we got to talking, and it's like, is Laravel going to go that same direction where you really only bring in the pieces you need? So then it just becomes a plugin infrastructure, and because so much of Laravel is built on Symfony components, it just seems like the way it's going to go, right?
Right, and Laravel 5.5 added package auto discovery. So now what was an already really mind-bogglingly easy task, which is composer, require, and then your thing, and then opening up app.php and adding it to the list of things. Now you just don't have to do the app.php part, which I mean, that must have taken a lot of work, but why? It almost made it like way too easy.
Have you looked at Symfony 4 at all?
I haven't dug into it yet. I've looked at the initial release notes and the descriptions for how it was no longer a framework. What did he call it? He called it. He has a new term for the core components. Flex.
Hmm.
But
See,
I haven't dug into it too much.
I think that's my problem is the code bases I work in are all legacy, so I don't work in the latest frameworks. I get to play with Laravel only when I jump into some of our client code that's using it. I don't get to build it from scratch. So I'm curious how Symfony is going to fit in here. Like, is it really going to be a big time saver? Is it going to speed up things by having it to be such a slim, can't call it a framework if you're going to say flex, whatever it is, basically a plugin architecture? What does that plugin take? Does it slow things down as you keep bolting pieces on? Or if you bolt on all the pieces that Symfony has today, or not today, in version 3, is the speed equivalent?
Right, which I think Taylor was trying to point out in his post on Medium about benchmark apples and oranges comparisons.
Right.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, I much prefer the small framework, large collection of libraries format, just because that's the way Laravel already is, except that it includes the large collection of libraries in the default install.
But in reality, what does the large collection of libraries end up costing you? Because the bootstrap process shouldn't load all that stuff up unless you're using it,
And
right? So,
yeah, I don't believe it does, but there's always going to be a leak somewhere.
but where's the bloat? Is the bloat in just disk usage, or is it some sort of actual speed hit because you have all this stuff available to you?
Well, one of the issues with Laravel over Symfony 4 is that Laravel has things like encrypted cookies enabled by default, or middleware auth middleware enabled by default. And because PHP isn't a straight compiled language, it still has to run through certain if this, else skip sort of
Mhm.
commands. It can't be optimized in the way that you think it should be. There are things like op caches that speed it up, and there's a new virtual machine in 7.3 or 7.4 that's supposed to do this. Well, it's actually implemented in 7.2, but you have to enable it and recompile, I believe. And these engines will do uh, virtual machine compilation things, but that's still going to be a performance hit. So it's just the more stuff you add, even if it just returns false and continues the loop, it still has to do that quick calculation. And then disk hit and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Huh. Be interesting to see where that goes. For sure.
So I think the big news this year was PHP 7.2 being released. Happened just a couple weeks ago.
Was it that recent?
Yeah.
Huh.
And actually, I think 7.1 was also released this year, the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
7.1 and 7.2 not really contributing anything too significant except for libsodium, which
Which is huge.
it's big. Yeah, it's big, and it's going to change the security in PHP moving forward.
Yeah.
But as we know, not everybody's running the 7 series branches yet.
Don't remind me. Actually, in the latest PHP Architect podcast that Eric and I do, we talked about libsodium being in there. So go take a listen to that.
Nice little plug.
Yeah, you like that? So what frustrates me about the main code base I work on is they're still running 5.6. And I have a super simple PR open that would allow it to run on 7. And it just hasn't been accepted yet. It's like, just accept it. The big thing is,
you did have a milestone pull request this week.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. I want to go back to the minor change that I need to make for the code base is switching from MySQL to MySQLi. Done.
Yeah, well, that one character can be a real pain.
Yeah. So what Thomas was referring to is the fact that I started a major feature for this client, opened the initial pull request in January 2017, and it was finally released this week. We're recording on December 28th. It was released last night, December 27th. I spent all day fighting fires, which is always fun. It's not fun. It's stressful.
I wish admins understood that fighting those fires is easier if you've just written the code rather than if you wrote the code 100 days ago.
Yeah. The scope of it kept changing. So while the initial release was, or the initial pull request I opened a year ago, it was, oh, it'd be cool if we could do this. All right, let me code that. Oh, what about doing this? All right, let's do that. And then it was all the testing in between. And this was one of the first features that I was able to release on our quote unquote beta platform. So this year, I also got this client onto a cluster of servers versus having a single main web server. So they're on multiple web servers behind HA Proxy. And then within HA Proxy, I was able to set it up where if certain criteria are met, you go to a beta machine that has different code, which was a big deal in my opinion. I love being able to provide that. So segmenting people over to just using this code was nice. So it's been being tested for many, many months. It's just a matter of all the fine tuning that went into getting it released. Took way too long, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And
those old code bases are.
Yeah. And the biggest issue that we ran into today was in friggin' cache busting. Drives me drives me absolutely nuts. So years and years ago, it was add a parameter onto the URL. So I want
Yeah.
x.js question mark something. And I don't know if some browsers just don't respect that parameter, but that's where the issue was. So what I ended up doing, and I actually did it a couple years ago for some CSS files, but I didn't do it for JavaScript, was changing the file name that is given to the browser to be, so one of the examples is dialer.js. So instead of saying that, it's dialer underscore and then the MD5 of the contents of that file.
Yeah.
So if the file changes, it's fine. So give that to the browser. The browser has to ask for a new file now. It's not a parameter, it's the freaking file name. They have to ask for it. All worked fine except for my regex, which when I did it for CSS was super lame. I was in a bind. I needed it done right away, right? So instead of using fancy regex, I just used 32 dots. So if there's an underscore, followed by exactly 32 characters .css, you would get the file name .css. I did the same thing for JavaScript, and wouldn't you friggin' know, there was one file that had exactly 32 characters. Just the directory structure and the file name happened to be 32 characters under Bower underscore components. So from components to the end of the file name was perfect. It just broke everything. So I had to fix that, which wasn't hard. It was just weird.
Gotta love those edge cases.
Luckily, I have some understanding of regex, but when I did it for the CSS, I didn't want to get into the specifics of Apache's regular expression engine. So I didn't know what flags it had available to it.
Right.
So I just used the dots to say 32 characters. But changing it to say, okay, it has to be A to Z or 0 to 9, and that's it, fixed my problem.
Yeah, if you ever really want to hate yourself, try to do a regex lookback query. Those are just nightmares.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I think I use that all the time. And it's
a lookback is where it looks for a match,
okay,
and then it looks for stuff before the match.
I didn't even know that was possible because I look for the match. I use matches all the time.
Yeah, this goes beyond that. It's basically building a function inside of the regex to execute when it finds the first match.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So in PHP, it's preg callback, right?
No, this is in raw regex.
Oh, we have to look this up because you've lost me now.
It's nightmarish, but satisfying in the way that waking up from a nightmare is.
And I thought I loved regular expressions.
No,
I need to learn. Now I need to learn something new. Bastard.
They're the worst.
Yeah.
Another big thing this year was Microsoft's bizarre adoption of the open source community.
It's actually been going on for a few years now.
Well, the one I've got noted here is the release of Visual Studio Code for PHP developers, which is a confusing push away from their idea that only ASP exists and we only support ASP.
I haven't tried it yet because when I get into a browser or into a IDE or even a code editor, I stick with it. I did that with Vim for almost 20 years before switching to PHP Storm. I would dabble in some, but never really picked up on it. Eric, on the other hand, switches his IDE almost daily. Whatever.
Yeah, where is Where's Eric? We forgot to mention that Eric isn't here again today.
That poor guy. He had surgery on his knee the day after Christmas, and he's still laid up.
Yeah, I've been
He said
saying that he's calling in lame because I think I'm really funny.
that's because you are, and I agree. I'm in pain. I'm taking medication. I'm high as a kite. I'm not going to be on the show.
Yeah, and he is also technically lame now since only one of his legs will move correctly.
Yeah, that's true. So he was raving about Visual Studio Code, and we had we do co-working Thursdays at Holy Crepe here in Poway, California on Thursday mornings, and we had a new guy join us last week who we could tell was just getting into this, and today he was asking some question, and we decided to start talking about IDEs, and he's using NetBeans, which I haven't used. I
bad
haven't used
call.
in 15 years easily. So
That's
we
the
were
last time
telling
it was updated, I think.
probably. So we all gave him our opinions, and my opinion is if you're getting paid to write PHP, use PHP Storm. And then from what I hear about Visual Studio Code, if you really need a free version, go that route.
Yeah, I couldn't cut it without PHP Storm.
Once you start using the tools behind it, it is friggin' amazing. And
I'm just
that's where I'm
so
at.
I'm such a muscle memory guy. I can't break away from how I currently do things that easily, which is
Well,
starting to get annoying.
yeah. Well, I think it's just the features of an IDE in general. So for so many years, I was a Vim user. I mean, that's all how I programmed. And it's because I would jump on a production machine and start coding, right?
Yeah, as one is wont to do.
And then even when I started learning about development environments, breaking out, I still would SSH to my dev server, and that's how you coded was with Vim. And I learned how to move around files efficiently, get things done very easily. But once I started using a proper IDE and having code completion and some syntax warnings, or even little things like, hey, you're not using this variable anywhere. Do you really need it? I mean, those simple
Yeah.
things is like really nice to haves. And
Well,
it's helped clean up a lot of code.
and my thing with PHP Storm has always been that it handles templates, HTML, JavaScript, PHP, all in the same template so smoothly, which I've had so many IDEs just stumble and fall on themselves when it sees JavaScript and goes, "This isn't PHP. I don't know what to do," and then it turns half the page gray because it's invalid code, and you're like, "No, that's just different code. Come on."
Then you got to learn. Okay, I'm not going to listen to my IDE for this piece.
Right, and then Laravel Blade syntax has its own custom layouts and language stuff, and PHP Storm has a very simple plugin that fixes all that for you and makes it work. And
That is a
it's
great point. I wonder how Eric handled that with Visual Studio Code, or did they come out of the box with Blade template recognition?
that's a good question. I don't know how the
Damn it, Eric, where are you at? You should be
extension.
here to answer these questions for us.
Is he in the chat? Is he listening live?
No, he said he would if he was not too high.
Yeah. Damn Percocets get you every time.
Yeah. Hey, we do have one viewer, unless it's you.
I think it's me.
Oh, bastard. I was excited for half a second. All right, what else do you want to talk about?
Well, HHVM, which when I talked about that earlier this year, you guys were very nonplussed about it, but I thought it was a very interesting statement
I thought it
from
was
the.
dead was 7.1 and 7.2.
Well, that was their announcement, was that it's no longer PHP. It's not binding itself to PHP at all. They want to be their own language with stricter typing and following much more stringent rules. I'm curious about this again after reading about WebAssembly, because HHVM with its strict typing could be compiled to WebAssembly. So you would get that PHP style syntax and grammar, but then compiling it to a very fast language for the browser.
And why can't you do that with PHP?
Because strong typing is mandatory for compiling anything.
That makes sense. Okay. So with PHP's new, they do have typing, but it's not required. Is that the issue?
Yeah, it's not required, and even when it is, it's not fully fleshed out yet. There are certain return types that aren't quite available yet, and really, the thing that you see the community clamoring for in future versions is something called generics, which essentially allows you to create a new return type and return that type. So right now it's the simple array, integer, stuff like that. Generics would allow you to say a factory object which produces car objects, or a factory object of this shape and size, or a polymorphic class in this instance, and
So you
it
can't
gives you.
return it. You can't return an object as it right now.
You can return an object, but if it's the wrong object, you can't really check that, at least not at the compile level. Generics would allow you to check for those things during compiling.
Okay.
And that's important because for compiling to achieve anything, optimization is the key. If your compiler is just allowing for errors everywhere, then you're not achieving a whole lot more than a virtual machine. This is all stuff I've just been dealing with in the last 2 weeks, and my well of knowledge is low, but I am getting a better understanding of it at least.
While it's low, it is well above mine. So there you go.
It's about 2 weeks above yours.
Depends how much you put in those 2 weeks.
The other big news, PHP Unit 6 was announced. I don't know if anybody even cares.
I mean, 6 requires PHP 7, right?
Right, which was part of the big move from Symfony as well as Laravel to require PHP 7.
Right. So right now, I think I'm still using PHP Unit 4. I'm on the client I work on. We're pushing to go to PHP Unit 5 soon. I'd prefer to go to 6 if some other PR was accepted to get us to where we're 7 compatible.
Somehow you'll end up on PHP 9.
My goal for 2018, get them to PHP 7.
That's a worthwhile goal.
It worked a few years ago, going from 4 to 5. Why not from 5 to 7?
I think that was like 4 years ago now.
No, it was actually when I gave a presentation in, I think it was PHP Tech 2013, maybe 2014, is when I opened my pull request to make that work.
That's a solid 4 years.
All right, we'll go with that. I remember opening that pull request while at Tech, being so excited. Like, this works. I gotta, please, let's go forward with this. Anyway.
This was also a really rough year for hacks.
Every year is.
It's getting worse and worse every year. And we're seeing stuff like the MongoDB hack, where it turned out that there were thousands of MongoDB servers that were just open to the public.
I think that's one of the reasons Eric has hesitated implementing that in any of our client code is there's so much unknown. Like, we all know MySQL and we trust it, but with all of these new NoSQL databases or actually anything new, it's like we need to find some way to put a security review on this. How do we know that we have covered everything?
Yeah, I'm on my personal computer every day for at least 10 hours a day, and I still pull up my task manager and just go, what the hell is that? That's not good. Something's running from Windows Temp and it's got a random character name. I've got to fix this now. It's like, how do I trust that my server is going to be running at all if I've got stuff running on it? No, that's my biggest fear, spinning up all this Buscoin stuff, is now I've got servers and I don't want to get a bill all of a sudden that says, hey, you used up 20 terabytes of bandwidth this month. How's it going? I don't know. I forgot to configure one of the ports on my firewall.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of the bandwidth charges, especially when you can't control some of it.
So some of the big hacks this year, just aside from MongoDB, WordPress had major problems this year again.
Shocker.
There was, of course, the Equifax breach. Uber was hacked. Yahoo was hacked. So many. I mean, just forfeit. Just throw your arms up and quit. Everyone's been hacked. You're going to get hacked soon, probably tomorrow.
Equifax being the big one, right?
Equifax, that, and our government. I mean, if you
bringing up our government, you keep depressing me every time you do that.
Our voting system was hacked. So, yeah, it's been a rough year for anyone who's in the security side of things, unfortunately. But PHP is still going strong. We're just adding security.
We are, but when you're still hiring people that were coding 10 years ago and don't care about keeping up with today's standards, you know, or all I care about is lining the pockets of the shareholders.
Yeah, or they just work out of a conclave in India, which I still have code that I look at and I'm like, oh yeah, I know where this came from. Always frustrating.
So also this year, sorry, just switching gears because we need
Hold on, let me refresh, and then we'll move on to this is the final section of the year in review. This card goes under the final section here.
Okay. Hi, Carolyn. Since I guess we're taking a break. Boy, I don't know how that segue happened, so it's going to be very awkward. But, hey.
There's going to be a nice musical overlay for this part.
There is? Why?
This is the in memoriam. It's the part at the end of the award show.
I moved another card over I was going into first.
Well, that was supposed to go under the in memoriam, but we'll take that first. It's not technically dead.
Oh, whatever. However you want to do it.
You can take that one.
All right. Also happening this year was the fact that PHP 5 is switching to security fixes only, which is another reason I want to get off of 5 completely. Have you seen any I don't even know what to say. Pers- surveys that show what percentage of people are still running PHP 5?
Yeah, it's terrifying.
And PHP
Let me
7
see.
has been out for
I have it right here.
plenty of time. I think the biggest reason my client doesn't want to accept my pull requests is there's a very scary regex that I did have to fix to make it work in PHP 7. And it's just one of those, it's if you don't understand it, don't change it, right?
Yeah, and if it's regex, you don't understand it.
Yeah, so while I said it was just MySQL to MySQLi, the real thing holding it up is a single regular expression in Smarty version 2 because they can't go to Smarty version 3.
So the w3text.com usage statistics and market share of PHP for websites shows that 88.5% of websites are still on version 5.
88% of those running PHP are still on PHP 5.
Yes.
Wow.
And 5.3, 5.4, and 5.5 are all end of life. So when we say that the 5 branch is only getting security fixes, that's just until January 1st of next
Of
1 year from now,
2019.
of
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah.
So one more year of support for 5.6, and then that is it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no more patches of any kind whatsoever unless you got a third-party guy doing patch development for you.
Which isn't happening.
No. God, I hope not. God, you think you've got a bad job. The guy who's maintaining 5.3 right now is just killing himself.
What are you talking about? It's a cush job. If you're getting paid a salary, just sit there and apply security fixes for 5.3.
No,
One, you
that's
got to know they
terrible.
exist. Yeah, but you have to know that you're sitting there waiting. You're like twiddling your thumbs, waiting for somebody to say, "Hey, there's a security bug here."
Just fix this line here.
Yeah. All right, I'll go do that.
Yeah,
It's not.
5.6 is 3 years and 4 months old now, and is going to lose support in 1 year.
Just get upgraded already. Get to 7, and then just try and stay up. Just try and stay up to date. I know it's hard when you're on shared hosting, and that's probably where a majority of that 88% is. But it still needs to be done. You still need to find a way to stay current.
Now, this is fascinating to me though. 7.0 is going to be at end of life before 5.6.
Is it really?
Yeah, by 1 month.
Huh.
It will be losing support December 3rd, whereas 5.6 will be losing support until December 31st.
Yeah, I do recall them making like this big shift in 7 to try and stop people from just hanging out on older versions.
Yeah, that is a big change. They're just going to have a very steady rollout of 7. 7.2 gets support until November 30th, 2020. So it only has a 3-year lifespan.
Yeah, and I think that's their goal is just to keep it rolling. Don't get held back.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest downfall was that switch from 4 to 5. It was such a big problem for people to make that switch that people are now scared to go from 5 to 7. They don't know how easy it is
Yeah, it's so simple.
outside of a
If it's
regular expression.
Yeah, and if it's not simple, then you're doing something wrong, like
I
using regular expressions.
or using the MySQL extension. That's the other big one. I'm sure that's bigger than that regular expression issue.
Yeah, but like you said, I mean, it's such an easy change. You just change the function name everywhere, and you're done.
Yeah, but you see how people abuse MySQL functions.
Yeah,
I happen to
it's
have a
ugly.
PR. Yeah, I happen to have a simple PR that changes it in just a handful of places and it fixes the code base. But people that use the MySQL underscore functions everywhere, they are the ones that have an issue.
Well, and I've seen people use MySQL like SQL commands to do math. I've seen terrible things done with SQL where it's not actually querying a table, they're inserting data into the query and then returning just a calculation.
Stop it. You have not.
I absolutely have. Yeah, nightmare stuff. People will program as badly as you'll allow them to.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love it. Absolutely love it. Whoops.
This brings us to the unfortunate tail end of the year. This is where the soft piano music plays. This is our in memoriam segment.
Are we saying goodbye to cryptocurrency?
Oh God, no. But we are saying goodbye to a lot of things this year. A lot of things that are nostalgic to me and somehow tech related, just even if slightly. I painted a very broad brush with this one. AOL Instant Messenger.
No, say it ain't so.
Officially, as of recording, dead.
So the last, again, going back to the PHP Architect podcast that we just recorded, was all about chatbots, and that was my first chatbot, was on AOL Instant Messenger. It was for bowlingball.com. You could ask what the status of your order was. You could track your packages through it, and it worked. It wasn't a great chatbot, but it worked.
That was my first girlfriend. It was a chatbot on AOL Instant Messenger.
Sad.
Yeah.
What
We
was her
never
name?
really officially broke up. I don't remember her name. We also, this year, lost the CompuServe forums.
CompuServe.
There's a thing I actually didn't know existed until they said they were closing it down.
What?
And then I pleaded to the heavens.
You weren't a CompuServe person? I forgot how young you are. Damn it.
I got in when AOL was flooding the market with free floppy disks.
Mm-hmm.
But before they were flooding the market with free CDs.
I was in before that even happened. Back in the BBS days. Anyway.
Well, and that's what the CompuServe forums were. They were a light BBS, a tech-friendly BBS, and they're now gone. We saw the death of the 3D television for home 3D.
Now, you say we saw the death of it. What do you mean by that? Because I remember that being all the rage not that long ago. Like,
Yeah,
everyone's
last
going to
year.
have this.
Yeah. Yeah, they stopped making them.
Yeah. Makes sense.
It does, because it was always terrible. And there was very, very little content.
That's the big thing, is the content. They were expensive, and who's going to sit there with glasses on your head all day?
Yeah, it added like $500 to the cost of your TV, and you got soccer, basically. Soccer in 3D.
If I knew that, I would have bought one.
Well, you can't now.
Oh. If they put curling in 3D, they'd be back in business.
That was the breakout sport of 2016.
Love watching curling.
Big fan of the brooming. The Windows Phone. It's dead as a doornail.
Seriously? That I did not
Seriously.
know.
Yeah. Microsoft finally gave it up. Said Android and Apple, you win this round. We've got other things to focus on. So they have
Wait, you're
loosed.
serious? They stopped making any new Windows phones?
Yeah, they've loosed all their hardware markets. They're liquidating the companies they bought to make phones.
Crap,
They
what am I going to
are,
do with this app now?
I mean, nothing. YouTube ad revenue
So
doesn't affect us in any way whatsoever, except that I created Buscoin in response to it. But if you don't know what the adpocalypse is, it is just a nightmare for any content creator who relies on advertising money. Google's very broad algorithm to detect if something is controversial was terribly or is terribly broken and can't tell one thing from another. To the point now where one of the guys I follow, he will upload his video but not publish it with a title that is grossly obscene, so that it guarantees that it gets a strike against it. And then he changes the title to what he wanted it to be in the first place and issues a review. And then they have an actual more person-like bot review his content and say it's okay. And that way it stays up for the 3-day period where all the money is made.
Who is that you're following?
IHE, I Hate Everything.
Oh, I don't know that one.
He's a TV or movie reviewer. Good guy.
It's an interesting way to do it. Because I know a lot of content creators on YouTube have been complaining about this, and it is a big issue. But that seems like such a pain in the ass way to go about it. And I know it's that first few days where you make your money. I mean, that's where all your views come in, especially when you have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers, subscribers.
Yeah, and the whole thing about clicking the bell to get notified when new content is uploaded is incredibly important now. And I guess the way that people use YouTube still doesn't make sense to me.
It's constantly changing, for one. But what do you mean? How people
Like
use it?
there's a YouTube homepage, but that's completely irrelevant to me because I have my like 20 subscriptions that I follow, and they produce enough content to fill a complete day.
Mm-hmm.
So I just watch my subscriptions. I don't watch anything else.
Right.
I'm never looking at what's trending. I'm only looking at what my favorite channels have recently published.
That's a good point, because I do the same thing. I just look at my basically dashboard.
Right.
What's recommended to me based on that. And I've never gone to the homepage.
Trending is enormously important to YouTubers. If you've got the #1 trending spot, that's 2 million hits, just guaranteed.
But who sees that page?
That's my question. I don't understand kids these days using homepages, not using RSS feeds. Doesn't make sense to me.
But maybe most people just don't log into their account. Maybe they're just watching videos. They go to YouTube to watch videos, but they're not logged in.
I know my kids couldn't care less about their channels. They only follow the popular people, and when the popular person shows up on the homepage because they've got a new video, then they watch it. But if they disappeared off the homepage, they would stop watching their popular videos.
So they don't log in. They just go to youtube.com and watch videos.
Right. They're just watching the stream of what's popular by everyone else's measure, which upsets a lot of content creators because they have no means of recourse for that. It's just an algorithm designed to push millions of eyes at the most ad-friendly content, and it's curated by an algorithm that just wants to make money. It doesn't care about quality.
Mm-hmm.
So YouTube, hopefully Floatplane next year becomes a nice, healthy replacement for YouTube. I've been waiting for that for a while.
What is it called?
Floatplane.
I've not heard of that one.
It's created by the guys behind the Linus Media Group, Linus Tech Tips.
Okay.
And they basically said YouTube is terrible. Their compression quality is awful. Their curation is miserable. Their ad revenue, advertiser relationships are stupid. So we're going to make our own platform and fix everything.
Good luck to them. Unfortunately, all the advertisers go to YouTube. Everyone knows YouTube. YouTube has all the integrations into all the TVs and streaming devices out there. So it's going to be a tough.
It'll be tough, but Floatplane is in a position to do it. They have the money and resources to launch a competitor, and they've been very smart about it. This has been in development since 2016, early 2016. So they know what they're doing, and they're not doing a rapid launch with open source janky stuff. They're building everything from scratch as well as they can.
Well,
and they have a big following.
I'm interested, and I want to go check it out.
You can't. It is still closed beta.
Oh, I'm going to check it out as soon as they say they're open beta.
They will.
How about that?
They will next year. They will go open and allow people to sign in. And finally, somehow, I was looking at stories about the dead tech of 2017, and the thing that never got brought up. Our dear net neutrality. The internet as we know it has ceased to be in this 2017.
Should we take a moment of silence?
It will get truncated by the filter I run on the podcast later.
So I got my letter from the congressman saying, thank you for reaching out to me. We're addressing this, blah, blah, blah. And it obviously ended up not mattering.
So much of American politics has just ended up not mattering.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
In this era, at least in our opinions.
Yeah. And, 80% of Americans
just don't get it.
But net neutrality, we like to say that, losing net neutrality is a hideous blow, and I think people don't understand when us tech people say that this is enormously bad, and that just the fact that it has started is bad, and people won't notice when their rights to the internet get mangled. People won't notice.
It's all behind the scenes.
Yeah, people won't notice until it's too late and things have become a disgusting mess. And it needs to be restored as fast as possible. It is such a disaster for...
Unfortunately, it's still years out before that's even possible.
Maybe not. Fingers crossed. Just saying.
Fingers crossed. but
Fingers crossed.
Unlikely.
So that brings us to the close of PHP Ugly 2017.
It's been a good year. I've been happy with this year.
Good.
I don't want to say goodbye. I don't want the year to be done.
Yeah. This year has redefined depression for me. It's been an awful year. I remember when 2016 happened and we thought it was a dumpster fire. And then all of California caught on fire and showed us what was really bad.
Yeah. I'm ending it there. We're over an hour into this, and I don't want to say something I'll regret like I did last episode.
I think I cut that out though.
Oh, did you?
Or maybe I was going to and I left it in because it was funny.
I don't know. I've only started listening to it. I keep accidentally hitting play on my mouse. It's like I don't want to hear anymore.
Close us out, John.
You've listened to PHP episode 89, the last episode of 2017. I'm John Congdon.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep it ugly. All right, stop and broadcast.
You know, that's one of the